All right, hello guys, how's it going? In today's video, we have a whole lot to talk about. First off, we have to talk about that big upcoming Arctic pattern, really, because there's going to be multiple Arctic blasts. We also are going to be experiencing, outside of this snowfall that we already have out here for the west, we're also going to be seeing a very major snowstorm, maybe even blizzard out here for the upper Midwest, kind of northern plains, I would call them. This area is in store for a major snowstorm. So we'll talk about that. And then also this area in store for a tropical storm for the southeast here. Very interesting, and also a very interesting track for this time of year, mid-November. To be seeing a tropical storm take this track is very unusual. So that's going to be an interesting scenario as well. So a whole lot to talk about, but let's talk about the current conditions first off, and then we'll get into everything that's upcoming. We do see that there is a major low pressure system offshore of the northwest, and this is really just shoving a lot of precipitation into these regions just like this, even further south and further east. So a lot of the impacts that we're seeing up here are from this low right here offshore of Washington. We can see a lot of heavier rainfall here and precipitation in general very close to the low. So we see just coming on shore as well for Oregon and Washington here, bringing snowfall to some higher elevations, rainfall to the more coastal and lower elevation regions. But again, more moderate to heavy precipitation with this one, so definitely some pretty major impacts. Even further north here near Seattle, we have some heavier precipitation up here, including snowfall for the Cascades there as well. Further south here, we have this going on. And even for the Sierra Nevadas here, we have some snowfall taking place. As you can see, the whites and blues are going to be extremely heavy snowfall, and we are certainly seeing that here for the Cascades. Rainfall when you get closer to the valley and for the Bay Area for sure, and coastal regions. So basically just the Sierra Nevadas and higher elevations seeing those areas of snowfall. Everything else is going to be non-frozen precipitation. Now for the northern Rockies here into the plains, we have snowfall primarily happening here for Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, South Dakota, Nebraska, and a bit of North Dakota as well. A little bit of a precursor to what's coming up because, again, we're going to be seeing major snowfall out here in just a few days. We'll talk about that later on. We do have a low located near Dallas-Fort Worth area, and this is bringing some storminess with it. This isn't exactly associated, but I think in general, low pressure being nearby is enhancing a lot of this storminess that we have, and certainly this cold front that we see stretching is bringing plenty of this storminess with it. We'll just zoom into some different regions, but it does look like isolated and scattered thunderstorms to me. San Antonio area seeing some of these, even up towards Waco as well. And then near Shreveport, we're seeing some of these more isolated and scattered thunderstorms also. Near Little Rock, surrounding regions in northern Mississippi as well, looks like scattered thunderstorms to me. And then it looks more showery the further north you get, so closer to the Appalachian Mountains here, looking a lot more showery, but still cold front nevertheless. And then we have this pocket in here, very isolated and very light showers moving through Virginia, the Delmarva up through even into New England, where we actually have some heavier showers taking place, but very fast moving. Look at how quickly those are moving across the screen with this cold front. Certainly windy probably in this region, but also these very quick moving storms. Very interesting. Now what we're going to do is move on, and we're going to focus in on the upcoming pattern. Now, as we focus in on the upcoming pattern, we're just going to move this ahead towards tomorrow afternoon. And look, already this tropical storm is going to be approaching the southeast. So this is a very near system. Also, we have a low over California, bringing, again, rainfall and snowfall. Depending on your elevation, still across the Rockies and Cascades, some isolated and scattered snowfall taking place. By the time we reach Wednesday afternoon, we already see this low developing here. 997 millibar low pressure center in Colorado, bringing snowfall behind it, as you can see. But this is going to bring this major snowstorm up here for the upper Midwest and for the northern plains. We do see our tropical storm here offshore of Florida as well. Let's just move a couple of hours here, and we do see it comes onshore of Florida. It is onshore of Florida. Let's keep going with it. It's going to be Thursday morning time frame. It does head into the Gulf according to this GFS model, so it heads pretty far inland. But look what's also happening out west. Very strong low. and this is just a major storm in general. But look at the snowfall behind it for Colorado, Wyoming, Nebraska, South Dakota, North Dakota, and it's only going to develop further. So let's move this towards Thursday evening, late Thursday evening, 989 millibar low pressure center here. Tons of heavy snowfall here to the north for the Dakotas, northern Minnesota. I noticed that every November or October we do get a storm like this, a very major storm, and it always ends up being one of the more major snow systems of the entire year, or at least in recent history, that's what's been happening. So this is not a huge surprise to me. We do have our tropical system down below, kind of slowing down and now turning around, as you can see. And by the time we're reaching about Friday evening, that's going to be the 11th, it is reaching the panhandle of Florida, so it's going back. And we see storminess up and down the East Coast already, but this is actually going to ride up the coast and bring even more storminess. Meanwhile, snowfall coming to an end for the upper Midwest with that system. We will take a look at the total snowfall in a moment, where we will see that. We can see this low here with our tropical system comes back offshore for the southeast again. So it kind of returns full circle here. And now it's offshore of Georgia and South Carolina. We do see also that our positive PNA is developing by this point. So we see a lot of cooler air moving in through the central United States, north central United States. And then we have our positive PNA here, which is forcing this cold air down. We still have warm air surging, but it's humid and stormy warm air, as you can see. So it has a lot of rainfall associated with it, but that will be kind of getting worse before it gets better, but it will be coming to an end. We see this tropical system hitting the Outer Banks practically, but nearby Virginia and North Carolina there by Saturday into Sunday, 12th to 13th. Could feel more like a nor'easter or a tropical storm. Regardless, this would bring precipitation and windiness with it for the East Coast. So it's not going to matter whether it's tropical or not, probably, but certainly going to be bringing those, nor'easter type impacts, I guess, regardless. And then it kind of moves off of the northeast here, a little bit less close to the coast there, and then it eventually moves up. By this point, interesting to note, we do have the cold fully engaged in the east now, and positive PNA pretty much taking hold by this point. This is going to be Sunday into Monday, 13th to 14th. As we continue things on, we do see we get more major systems across the more central United States regions here. A bit of a low trying to develop here across the middle of the country, bringing snowfall. Again, we've mentioned not to pay too much attention to location here, but consistently we've seen 1 to 3 snowstorms or so, so a handful of snowstorms basically, as these more colder air masses move into the east here. This is when things get really interesting. We see snowfall, but again, don't pay attention to location, but this is interesting. I can't help myself. We do get a bit of like a southern slider here. I wouldn't say it's impossible, but I would say it's improbable, probably. Again, I don't know why yesterday I made funny sentences like that, and now that one just seems weird to me as well. But Tennessee, Kentucky, Virginia, West Virginia, Maryland, seeing snowfall, according to the GFS model, by Friday, November 18th. But take it with a huge grain of salt, which is kind of a contradicting statement, but take it with a grain of salt for sure. We do see more major Arctic air clearly moving in by this point around Saturday the 19th, and really this is a winter-like pattern. This air is so cold that this model is showing that if a low was to move along this, I would say we would have a major East Coast snowstorm possibly. Because of how cold this air truly is, this would be like mid-January, peak winter temperatures. So whatever your temperatures typically are like in January, that's what we would be seeing here on November 20th because of how far below normal temperatures this would bring. And then we get a little bit of a ridge in the east, and we see this surge of storminess here with the warm air. But this is very late in the model run, so we will take it with a grain of salt, but certainly possible. We do see a little bit more cold air trying to return to the west, so this could be a flip back for late November, but it's impossible to say for certain. Now, total precipitation through the next 15 days, no surprise that we're seeing increasing amounts for the central and eastern United States, basically everywhere east of the Rockies. Anywhere in the whites, we're expecting practically no precipitation. Your grays will be about 1/10 of an inch or less of precipitation. Your greens 1/10 of an inch to 1/2 an inch. Your blues 1/2 an inch to an inch. Your yellows 1 inch to 2 inches. Your reds 2 to 5 inches. And then your browns 5 to 10 inches of precipitation. Again, as you can see, the east has more than the west, which isn't what I could say just a few days ago. Now for the total snowfall here, Anywhere in the grays, we're expecting a dusting, if anything. Blues, 2 to 6 inches of snowfall. Purple, 6 to 10. Pinks, 10 to 20. Pastel blues, like we're seeing for a lot of this swath in here with that major snowstorm, potential blizzard. That's going to be 20 to 30 inches of snowfall. There is some hints of pink in there, indicating 38 inches plus, so potentially 38 to 48 inches of snowfall for portions of the Dakotas and Minnesota, according to this model. And certainly for the Sierra Nevadas here, we have these pinks popping up within the pastel blues, putting us at about 40 inches plus. Now, for the temperature pattern, I just want to break this down. Again, we're in a full-blown negative PNA currently, so primarily colder air here for the western North America regions, and this enforces the warm air into the east. But as time goes on, we do see things cool down a bit more. So we get this first blast here around the we've estimated around the 11th to 13th is when this first one will set in, and this is looking a lot major than it did before. The blues will be about 1 to 10 degrees below normal, so not a huge departure, but it's the greens, 10 to 15 degrees below normal, and then even these blues within the greens, which will be 15 to 25 degrees below normal, and then the magentas and pinks being 25 to 30 or more degrees below normal, so a very significant departure from what's typical. And that just hangs out, okay? And then it gets a little bit more mild, more near normal for the eastern United States at least. But we see an even more major Arctic blast start to move in here. Certainly an Arctic blast around Saturday the 19th. This is the one that brings January temperatures down. Watch this one just blast and set in. Really far below normal temperatures in here. Again, 15 to 25 or even 25 degrees or more below normal. Certainly if this verified would be extreme. And then this is when things begin to warm up for the east, right around Wednesday the 23rd. Again, take it with a grain of salt. And then we see some cooler air moving back in. But we could see this just disappear on the next model run. It's very hard to say. This is a big change, so we will take it with a grain of salt, but we will continue to track it daily, just as we will with the entire upcoming pattern. So be sure to subscribe. We do upload every single day, so we will keep you guys up to date with everything happening in the upcoming pattern. But that'll pop up in your subscription box if you do subscribe. You can even hit the bell icon, and that'll send you notifications as well if you prefer it that way. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it. Leave a comment down below with your thoughts, and I will see you guys in the next video.